Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point is the big legal debate over the Citizenship Amendment Act. Is it constitutional or not? Mahesh Jethmalani from the BJP side, Abhishek, Manu, Singhvi from the Congress side, but both importantly are legal eagles. So we'll be focusing on the law in that big face-off, Jethmalani versus Singhvi. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. The BJP announces its 72 candidates in a second list for the Lok Sabha polls. Nitin Gadkari will be repeated from Nagpur, but 10 sitting MPs in Karnataka are dropped. Ministers Piyush Goyal and Anurag Thakur are fielded. The Citizenship Amendment Act showdown escalates as the India bloc targets the Modi government. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal triggers a row by claiming CA will spike crimes like rape and riots, will leave many people unemployed. The BJP hits back, says Kejriwal is engaging in baseless fear-mongering. Chief Election Commissioner Rajdeep says the poll panel will furnish all electoral bond details on time by Friday 5 p.m. The Supreme Court Bar Association distances itself from its president Adish Agarwal's statement saying a presidential reference is needed to review the Supreme Court judgment. Congress announces 5 Nari Nyay guarantees ahead of polls, includes 1 lakh annually for poor women and 50% quota in central government jobs. Suspense over Amethi and Raebareli continues. Congress selection panel proposes Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra as its candidates. Final decision to be taken by the Gandhi siblings. BJP seals the deal in Bihar. Sources say JDU will fight from 16 seats, BJP from 17 seats. No seats for Pashupati Paras, but Chirag Paswan gets 5 seats instead. Governor's post offered to the brother of Ramvilas Paswan, Pashupati. Prime Minister Modi ramps up Mission South ahead of Lok Sabha polls, will tour 3 southern states from 15 March. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Stalin hits out, says Prime Minister will spread lies in the state. A breakthrough in the Bengaluru Cafe Rameshwaram blast case. NIA detained suspect Shabir from Bellary, but no confirmation yet if Shabir is the cafe bomber. And Dalal Street sees red. Sensex crashes over 900 points, goes below 73,000 level. Nifty slides by over 1%, over 14 lakh crore of investor wealth is wiped out. But the big breaking story, the BJP has named 72 candidates a short while ago in a second list for the Lok Sabha elections. And the party has ended the suspense over Nitin Gadkari. He will be fielded from Nagpur, the Union Minister for Surface Transport, amidst questions and speculation over whether he would contest again. Mr. Gadkari will be once again for a 3rd time contesting from Nagpur. Also, ex-Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, who lost his chief ministership only yesterday, will now fight Lok Sabha from Karnal. Senior ministers Piyush Goyal will contest Lok Sabha for the first time from Bombay North. Anurag Thakur will contest from Hamirpur in Himachal. The other big story is coming from Karnataka, where 10 sitting MPs have been dropped, including Anant Kumar Hegde, Pratap Simha, Nalin Katil and Shobha Karanlaje. Union Minister has now been shifted to Bangalore North, a seat held by a former Union Minister, Sadanand Gowda. So there are a number of changes being made, also continuity. Basavaraj Bommai, for example, former Karnataka Chief Minister, will now contest the Lok Sabha. So you've got a number of sitting former BJP Chief Ministers who are now going to contest the Lok Sabha elections as well. Basavaraj Bommai, Shivraj Chauhan, Manohar Lal Khattar, Devendra Singh Rawat. Across the country, in certain key areas, former Chief Ministers have been given tickets. So accountability, BJP says, is a big factor. 6 of the 7 sitting MPs of Delhi have been dropped. That's right, 6 of the 7 sitting MPs from Delhi have been dropped. Manoj Tiwari is the only sitting BJP MP from Delhi Northeast who will continue and get back and will contest again. Paulomi Saha who's been tracking that big list for us, joins us. Paulomi, it seems winnability above all else, but also the old guard is there in a few states, Manohar Lal Khattar, Basavaraj Bommai, Nitin Gadkari, but also some new faces, especially in Karnataka and to some extent in Maharashtra and Delhi.
That's right. That's right. Yes, absolutely. Delhi, in fact, is the big story because they've dropped 6 of their sitting MPs in order to make way for fresh faces altogether in these elections. Only Northeast Delhi Member of Parliament Manoj Tiwari has been repeated out of the 7 Lok Sabha seats in Delhi that the BJP won. So if you're actually changing your sitting MPs when you won from these constituencies and you're looking for fresh faces, then clearly the feedback from the ground is not very good in terms of these sitting members of parliament. And that's exactly why you've decided to change those faces and bring in fresh faces and, have people, the contest their maiden election in order to, of course, ensure that the BJP wins in these constituencies. So the BJP has, of course, decided to go for an overhaul. But yes, there are some old war horses as well who are being brought in from the states, including Manohar Lal Khattar from Haryana, or Basavaraj Bommai from Karnataka, or Trivendra Singh Rawat from Uttarakhand. So, former chief ministers, all of them. So, yes, they're trying to keep the mix also in terms of bringing in fresh, new, young faces as well. And then, of course, repeating some of the old sitting members of parliament and war horses who will be contesting these Lok Sabha elections for the first time.
Okay. Very interesting mix there that the BJP is putting in place, but also winnability above all else, and some would say an element of accountability. Remember, all these ministers who made controversial statements are all being weeded out. Anand Kumar Hegde, who a few days ago spoke about the constitution being reviewed, is out. Parvesh Verma was accused of asking for an economic boycott of Muslims. He's out. Ramesh Biduri had made some extremely abusive statements about Danish Ali in Parliament. He's out. So there is a message that's going on. If you want to know more, watch Elections Unlocked. That's our primetime show at 10:30 p.m. I'll have much more on exactly what that list means. But let's move on to our top political story of the day. And our top political story of the day is coming from that fierce debate that's begun on the Citizenship Amendment Act, because a day after the BJP government notified the rules and says it's going ahead with the Citizenship Act, the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has now joined the debate. He triggered a controversy today with his comment that rapes, riots and unemployment will increase if citizenship is granted to people from Pakistan and Bangladesh who will take away jobs that are meant for Indians. Kejriwal's comments have not gone down well with the BJP. Other opposition parties are also gunning for the centre, calling CAA an anti-Muslim law. The BJP, though, is holding firm, saying this is an election commitment. We'll be joined by 2 top lawyers in a moment for a big legal debate, but more on the politics first.
पता नहीं वो कौन लोग हैं, क्या हैं, सारी कानून व्यवस्था चरमरा जाएगी, चोरियां, डकैतियां, बलात्कार बढ़ेंगे हमारे देश के अंदर.
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal predicting disruptive fallout of CAA, predicting flood of Pakistanis, rape, riots and dacoity.
बांग्लादेश से, पाकिस्तान से अगर झुग्गी लगा के आपके पता नहीं वो कौन लोग हैं, क्या हैं, सारी कानून व्यवस्था चरमरा जाएगी, चोरियां, डकैतियां, बलात्कार बढ़ेंगे हमारे देश के अंदर, पूरी कानून व्यवस्था, और पता नहीं कैसे कैसे लोग आएंगे वहां पे, सुरक्षा व्यवस्था, हमारे देश की सुरक्षा व्यवस्था का क्या होगा, चारों तरफ दंगे फैल जाएंगे. ये क्यों लाए हैं कानून?
Kejriwal's CAA rape analogy made the BJP see red. It launched a tirade asking Kejriwal to stop painting Hindu and Sikh migrants as criminals.
भाई अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, ना हम बलात्कारी हैं, ना हम लुटेरे हैं, हम वही हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल जी जो कोविड में आप हमारे को हाथ जोड़ जोड़ के कहते थे लंगर भेजो. हम वही हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल जी जिनको हाथ जोड़कर कहते थे रकाबगंज के अंदर हॉस्पिटल बना दो, ऑक्सीजन दे दो. हम वही हैं, हम बलात्कारी नहीं हैं, हम तो लोगों की जान बचाने वाले लोग हैं. एक घटिया बयान अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को वापस लेना चाहिए.
Team India, however, has been relentlessly training guns on the centre, calling CAA an anti-Muslim law.
हम क्या को पसंद नहीं करते, इसी के लिए उसमें जो 5 कम्युनिटी को रख दिया, मुस्लिम को निकाल दिया, जैसे हिंदुस्तान में वो लोगों का कोई कंट्रीब्यूशन नहीं है.
It will only give citizenship to those who do not belong to the Islamic faith and who belong to the other faiths. Any law which differentiates people on faith is not acceptable and it is discriminatory.
AIMIM chief Asaduddin Owaisi too attacked CAA.
ये कानून जो मोदी सरकार ने आज से 4 साल पहले बनाया था वो संविधान के खिलाफ है. आप रिलीजन की बुनियाद पर कानून नहीं बना सकते.
Home Minister Amit Shah has rejected claims of bias and said India will not abandon persecuted minorities in its neighborhood.
लाखों करोड़ों लोग पाकिस्तान से और बांग्लादेश से अपना धर्म बचाने के लिए, अपना सम्मान बचाने के लिए इस देश में आए. उनको नागरिकता नहीं मिलती थी. अपने ही देश में वो नागरिकता के बगैर अपमानित होते थे. नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हिंदू, बौद्ध, जैन, ये सारे सिख, ये सारे लोगों को नागरिकता देकर उनका सम्मान करने का काम नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने.
Will the escalating CAA showdown dominate the political discourse in the run-up to 2024 polls? Bureau Report, India Today.
And tonight on this Citizenship Amendment Act, we will look at its constitutionality, the legal dimensions. Two top legal eagles will be joining us. Mahesh Jethmalani, BJP's leader and also senior advocate Supreme Court, and Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Congress leader and senior advocate Supreme Court. But first, Mahesh Jethmalani, who's been waiting on us. Mr. Jethmalani, how do you see the challenge being posed by the opposition? More than 200 petitions are pending even in the court as we speak, where they say that the Citizenship Amendment Act, which your government has notified, the Modi government has notified, violates Article 14 of the Constitution and the basic principle of equality guaranteed under the Constitution.
Very humbly, Rajdeep, in a word, you want me to describe the opposition and the many petitions. Answer is very humbly misconceived.
Mm-hmm. You're using one word. Elaborate, sir, when you say it is misconceived, because the opposition says the manner in which the CA has been framed and now the rules have been notified is fundamentally discriminatory because it discriminates citizenship on the ground of religion. Muslims are kept out. Only other communities, Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Parsis are recognized.
Well, first of all, let me tell you, the conferment of citizenship is an exercise in sovereign power. Mm-hmm. According to me, right, there is no challenge to this. If there was any discrimination, you look at Article 15, right? It says the state shall not discriminate against any person on the ground of race, religion, etc., etc. Yes. Any citizen, yes. Right? Not potential citizens or aspiring citizens. Now, that's point number one. But point number two is, this is a very specific purpose statute. Not just a specific purpose statute, it is limited in time. So it is time specific and purpose specific. Mm-hmm. Now, what is the trigger, Rajdeep, before we get into all these emotional and divisive issues, right? It's a very, very simple trigger which conceived on the basis of which the act was conceived. One was that there were a whole lot of refugees. Almost all of them, right, were persecuted on the grounds of religion. And they were persecuted in states like Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. They became refugees here and they've been living from well nigh many, many years at the time when this was conceived, right? Mm-hmm. A cutoff date is now put by the Act, right? The Act says 2014. Anybody who was here before 2014 and has been continuously living there since then, right? If he is a victim of religious persecution, and that's the object of the Act. Once that is the object of the Act, right? Mm-hmm. How can you say, and now who are the perpetrators of this persecution? The perpetrators of this persecution are states which are theocratic. That's why you named those three, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. Mm-hmm. They are self-proclaimed Islamic republics.
Yes, but with due regard, Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani, India is not a Hindu republic. India is not a Hindu Rashtra. Therefore, when
No.
India makes the discrimination which is seen to be made on religious grounds, if I'm a Ahmadiyya in Pakistan who's discriminated, why should I not get the benefit if I come into India?
But now, therefore, the point is that this was governed by the fact that the largest number of people who were affected by the act, right, were people who were already victims of persecution by those three countries on the grounds that they were non-Muslim. How can Muslims be the beneficiaries of this act when the purpose of the act is to protect those people who have become refugees as a result of Muslim persecution because of Islam coming from theocratic states? Where is the question of there being, Muslims may be discriminated on other grounds.
Sir, but there are many million...
Let me get back to the Ahmadiyya issue,
sure.
right? Now, since you raised the Ahmadiyyas, so far as India is concerned, we recognize Ahmadiyyas as Muslims, right? But Pakistan doesn't, and the Indian Muslims, by and large, don't consider them. Do you know the kind of persecution the Ahmadiyyas in India have had to face from Sunnis and Shias? You ask the AIMM, right? Or you ask the All India Muslim Law Board, are Ahmadiyyas considered to be Muslims?
Mr.
No, please embark upon this inquiry. I've never had all the protesting students of Aligarh Muslim University, etc. They need to be asked this question: do you consider Ahmadiyyas to be Muslim? Because after all, right, the Ahmadiyyas believe that their prophet, Ghulam Ahmad Mirza, right, continues to be a prophet. It didn't end. The lineage, the prophethood didn't enter with Muhammad. End with Muhammad.
Okay, so you're saying, therefore, specific categories who've been religiously persecuted should be, in this instance, those who have a history of persecution in the last 40 years and therefore wanted citizenship. That has to be fast-tracked. Now, there are 2 points that emerge from that. One, from Bangladesh, you've got a number of economic refugees coming in, Hindus and Muslims, mainly in states like Assam and Bengal. In the past, we've seen the Assam government also raise questions saying, we will not allow any Bengali-speaking refugee into our country. Are we being very clear now that we are going to now distinguish between who is an economic refugee and who is a religiously persecuted minority?
Yes. There is going to be an exercise. And this act, therefore, is only aimed at protecting victims of religious persecution. That's the object of the act. That doesn't mean other refugees don't under other provisions. Listen, this is a new section 6B, specifically designed for a time period and a specific purpose, that is religious persecution. But that doesn't mean other refugees, including Muslim refugees, do not get the benefit of asylum.
Sir, but the fact is we've created a very different category, and this has led people to suggest, legal experts also to suggest, that it is fundamentally against the principles of our constitution. I mentioned Article 14 at the outset. There's also a belief that this cutoff date of 2014 is also arbitrary and therefore also needs to be looked at.
Listen, look, the rationale, this is the legislative wisdom. This is executive policy, right? According to them, people who have been here since 2014 are long suffering. That's our cutoff date. What is your problem with that? We'll deal with the rest later. What is your problem?
What if the Rohingyas who've already come in substantial numbers from Myanmar, where they've been persecuted, come to this country, do they get the benefit? What if tomorrow Tamils who are in Sri Lanka come and say they've been persecuted in their country, do they get the same benefits?
Rohingyas are not a persecuted religious minority. It is an ethnic issue, and it's an issue essentially between Myanmar and Bangladesh. These refugees have been created because Myanmar has turned them out. They've made them refugees because they never accepted them as citizens of what was then Burma. But they believe that they deserve to be sent back to Bangladesh because that's where the British brought them when they ruled India for the purpose of inadequate labor, which was there in Myanmar, right, on the tea estates, etc. And they're essentially Bangladeshis. India has nothing to do with it. But why are you putting this issue essentially between Myanmar and Bangladesh millstone around India's neck?
But you've said, Mr. Jethmalani, that you believe, therefore, this is a very specific section that has been created. There will be the arguments which are ongoing in the court, that the right to equality, which is the basis of our citizenship, that religion cannot be the basis of Indian citizenship, is being violated. Now, these petitions have not yet reached the final state of adjudication. The government goes ahead, just a minute, sir. The government goes ahead and notifies the rules after having sought 9 extensions just before the elections. And therefore, questions will arise. Is this being done simply with an eye on politics and not really in empathy or actually providing them the benefits of citizenship?
Now, Rajdeep, you leapfrog from what was an argument and a question based on the constitutionality of a particular statute. You are now completely ducked into another area. You are now talking about legislative intent. Is it mala fide? Of course, the opponents of a statute are going to say it is mala fide. What else do they have to say? Why is it mala fide? Are they against these people? Are they against the category of persons sought to be given citizenship by this act? Are they opposed to that?
Let's then turn to the final question that is raised, Mr. Jethmalani, which is quite simply this. The fact is that we are in an election season. We are also in a period where the Supreme Court, I repeat, has not given a final adjudication. Should we be waiting for that final adjudication on the constitutionality of CAA before the act is implemented, sir?
Yes, why not? Look, the courts have to take every constitutional issue which it decides in order in which it comes before the court. I mean, the BJP has complained of the timing about the electoral bond issue. Fine. So it doesn't matter. These things happen. It is the court's calendar which has to be looked at. Nobody talks about which issue it takes just before an election.
One last...
Sauce for the goose and sauce for the gander, I'm afraid. I find this one-sided criticism of the court not taking up the CAA issue before the elections to be extremely unilateral and arbitrary.
Okay, one last question. The NRC, which was supposed to be, in a way, is the chronology, as Amit Shah explained, was CAA first, then NRC. We've seen NRC in Assam itself lead to number of innocent people being detained. We've seen to number of people losing their citizenship as a result. And the entire process, in a way, has had to be reviewed and looked at again. Do you believe, therefore, that we need to be careful, given that this could involve a large bureaucracy and operation, so that innocent people don't suffer?
Yes, I think it is extremely important. But please remember, Rajdeep, this is not an act which prescribes exclusion. It's an act which wants to make citizens Indians, wants to make refugees citizens of India. It's an act of inclusion, not exclusion. So your argument can be, and I see the point of that, and I hope the government is sensitive to that we hope that people are not wrongly included.
Okay.
Please understand what the purport of this act is before you ask questions basically which the opposition are raising. Try and be at least a little even-handed on the purport of this statute.
I will make sure that the question that Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi faces at the moment will raise all the points that you have. That is my assurance to you, Mahesh Jethmalani, for now, for joining me. Thank you very much.
On that, I have full faith in you, Rajdeep. I have come on your fairness at least. Thank you, Rajdeep.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. And joining me now is Congress leader and senior Supreme Court advocate, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Dr. Singhvi, let's get it clear. The opposition seems to suggest that the CAA is unconstitutional. I had Mahesh Jethmalani a short while ago saying the opposition's entire argument is misconceived. All the CAA is doing what has been promised even by Congress governments in the past, ensuring citizenship for minorities who are persecuted in neighbouring countries, especially Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Rajdeep, there are many facets to this, but since you raised one particular facet, let me start by saying that there has never been a law in India, Congress or BJP led, except this particular BJP brand of politics, nor any other non-Modi party, which has by law, by amendment, by statute, prescribed that you shall have admission to ABCD and specifically leaving out F. Never. Let them point out.
Sir, I will point out. Sir, just a minute. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in the Rajya Sabha in 2003, during the Citizenship Amendment Act debate, said after the partition of our countries, minorities in countries like Bangladesh have faced persecution. It is our moral obligation to seek refuge in our country. Our approach should be most liberal.
You have just started the debate. I have made one sentence. You allow me to complete. You'll get all the picture. All that has happened is, which Mr. Jethmalani is referring to, are administrative or other orders, executive orders, in individual cases, giving citizenship to select communities. What you've done now is something very pernicious and unprecedented. Two facets. Article 14 is the heart and soul of our constitution. People say, if you ask that question, what is the heart and soul? There are two articles, 14 and 21. Now, it's the first time that a law mandates that all these communities, which you know, the religions, are allowed to apply. One, religion is conspicuous by its absence. One. Two, this is part of a ruling party, ruling dispensation's messaging. When you have not a single, minorities MP from that community or religion, when you have all these statements coming every day, it is part of a messaging. Thirdly, apart from 14, this is based entirely on religion, which is another pernicious aspect of this. And I must ask you, Rajdeep, this was passed more than 3 years ago. Can you give me a single reason why in March, a month before the elections, 1.5 months before the elections, there is a hullabaloo about this? This is nothing to do with persecuted minorities. You have the usual arguments. You have so many anomalies. You have the persecuted minorities of Tamils in Sri Lanka. They are not eligible. You have the persecuted minorities of Ahmadiyas and Hazaras in Pakistan, Rohingyas in Myanmar. The idea is to send a message. I will not even say it's the idea to give or not give citizenship. It's to send a message that we'll put you in your place, we will treat you differently. And for the world's largest democracy, Rajdeep, it is shameful. And never before has it been done by statute. What you are talking about are quotations about people saying, yes, if they apply, we have a mechanism by administrative order, etc.
So you raised certain political points about the timing of this decision to notify the rules. That's strong. Just a minute, sir. That's a political point. I want to focus once again for a moment on the law itself. Just look at the law. According to proponents of the bill, it is a Citizenship Amendment Act of inclusion, not of exclusion. No Indian Muslim is being excluded, is being denied citizenship. We are only including, say, the proponents of this act, people who have been persecuted in neighboring countries, minorities. They've specifically named Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, and they're saying we are accommodating them. So it's a law of inclusion, and therefore it is not about excluding anyone or discriminating against anyone.
There are two errors in your formulation, Rajdeep, on the face of it. One, a law of inclusion which stops short of including everybody in the zone of consideration becomes a law of exclusion by definition. If there are 5 people in the room, same temperature, same house, all more or less the same characteristics, and you say, I include 4, you are excluding the 5th one. Point 1. Point 2, there is no Muslims in it. The argument given is that this community cannot per se be prosecuted or persecuted. That is wrong, because I have given you examples, and you see, it was very simple. If it was a secular law, you could have said, this citizenship will be available to all and sundry who apply from these notified countries, and notify them properly. The inclusion of a few is the exclusion of the others not included in the few.
So, for example, I asked Mr. Jethmalani specifically about Ahmadiyas, about Hazaras, about also Rohingyas, and also Tamil who may be persecuted. Now, he said, do Muslim, he says, do you believe that Ahmadiyas are seen as Muslims necessarily by even Muslims in this country? They've been, in a way, ostracized as a grouping. So, do not equate them with Hindus from Bangladesh who he says have been persecuted and almost at times forcibly converted, or indeed Hindus in Pakistan who've been denied equal rights. You cannot make an equalization between these communities.
Nobody's making an equalization. You are making an unequalization. What is happening is a simple one-line law could have been passed. We want to give citizenship to every persecuted person who applies from the notified countries. That's one modulation. Second is, we want to extend refugee rights, a better formulation actually. We want to extend refugee rights to all persons who seek refugee status from notified countries. A third formulation...
Whether religiously persecuted or economic refugees?
No, the really secular approach would be to say, those who prove that they deserve refugee status, and refugee status cannot be given, Rajdeep, under the international conventions except for persecution. That's a composite definition of persecution, religious and other forms of persecution. Why don't you make that law? Nobody's objecting. Now let's come to religion. You can make a law of notified countries which includes everybody, does not exclude a particular religion. And this is not about Ahmadiyyas or Hazaras. It is about any persecuted religious minority. Of course, there will be a large number of Hindus. We must welcome them. We will welcome them. But why should we not welcome the non-Hindus? So there is a method. The method is to send a message. To say, this is all, you step back. Legislation is part of the promotion of the identity and the policy of the government. This government of the day shamelessly believes that they have a stamp. We are, whether you call it the Hindu Rashtra, we are the pro-Hindu party, we are the only ones who protect Hindus, and everybody else be damned. That is not the identity of a secular country. That is not the identity of our constitution. That is not the identity of 14 and 21.
This government also seems to believe that majority of those who are being persecuted on religious grounds in our neighboring countries are Hindus. And therefore, they deserve therefore special protection privileges in terms of fast-tracking their citizenship.
There is no problem with that formulation, Rajdeep. It could be true in numbers. There may be 100 of those and there may be 25 of the others. We are talking of a statutory exclusion. You cannot make a statute where you draw a line where you say that because this is 60 or 70 people, we will not include the 40. Unless you show that all those 30, 40 fall in a class which is qualitatively different. There is no answer to the point that the others who are excluded are not shown to be qualitatively different, save and except for one reason. They are Muslims. That's all.
Can I therefore ask you in conclusion, Dr. Singhvi, there are about 200 petitions challenging the constitutionality of the CAA pending in the Supreme Court. Now the rules are being notified, have been notified. Where does that leave all the petitioners who went to the Supreme Court? In your view, therefore, is this legal debate now settled simply because politics now has decided that the Citizenship Amendment Act, the rules have been notified ahead of the elections?
I have no hesitation in partially and respectfully faulting the Supreme Court as well, institutionally. Not individually, institutionally. These petitions, the first of them, if my memory serves me right, was filed in 2020.
That's right.
In 2022, an order was passed that Chief Justice Lalit is retiring. These shall be taken up immediately after his retirement in December 22. Now, from 20 to 24 is a long journey of 4 years for a sensitive and a prominent issue like this. We're not talking about whether it's in your favor or whether it's against me. That's not the issue. This should have been decided. That's point one. Point two, I think there is no answer to you about the timing of these rules which you just mentioned. It is unheard of that a law of 19 or 20 is notified by rules. The only reason can be elections. The whole point of this government is keep the pot boiling. Keep something happening, show that something is happening. There is absolutely not a single reason given why it is not notified for the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, let me leave it there, Dr. Singhvi. You're saying the government's intention is to keep the pot boiling ahead of the elections. I appreciate you joining us on our big legal debate here on the Citizenship Amendment Act. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our ground report today is also on the aftermath of the Citizenship Amendment Act rules being notified. Celebrations have erupted in parts of West Bengal, especially among the Matua refugees on the border. Many of these Matuas are essentially Hindu migrants who escaped religious persecution in neighbouring Bangladesh and are seen to hold significant political influence in parts of Bengal. For them, the CAA is seen as a beacon of hope. Take a look at tonight's ground report.
आज से कल से इस देश में आया हुआ हर एक शरणार्थी मेरे और आपके जितना ही अधिकारी है.
As the Modi government rolled out the Citizenship Amendment Act notification on Monday, jubilation filled the air among the Matua refugees of West Bengal. Celebrations erupted in West Bengal, Siliguri and other parts of the state as well. Escaping persecution in Bangladesh, the Matua community belongs to the Hindu scheduled caste, settled primarily in North and South 24 Parganas district of Bengal.
Over here, Bidhan Roy, he has come to India from 1989-88. That's what he tells us. He's 79 years old. He is filing his application at this particular cyber cafe, and he was speaking to us. He's happy. He got an OTP on his phone after he did the signing up. The person over here, he's helping him constantly. There are multiple questions and multiple documentations that this particular application requires.
Amidst joy, some migrants recounted horrors faced in Bangladesh.
मैं यहाँ पे आकर के पढ़ाई लिखाई किया, 8वीं तक पढ़ाई की, 8वीं से 10वीं तक पढ़ाई किया, ठीक है. अब बुढ़ापा आ गया, यही उम्मीद लेकर के हम लोग चल रहे थे, लेकिन आज वो उम्मीद में हम लोग खड़ा उतरेंगे, कभी हम लोग सोच भी नहीं सकते.
आपके आंख में आंसू आ रहे हैं.
ये खुशी का आंसू है.
ছোট ছোট ভাইপো ভাইজি ছিল, তাদের নিয়ে যখন যাই তখন আমাদের ওই রাইফেল দিয়ে যখন গুলিগুলো দেয় আমাদের কানের কাছে যায়, সেই দৃশ্যের কথা আমরা কোনোদিনও ভুলতে পারবো না. কানের কাছে যাচ্ছে আমার দাদারা মারা, কে কোথায় আছে জানি না. আমার নিজের ভাই, তাকে আমার বাবার সামনে গুলি করে মেরে ফেলা হয়.
In the current electoral landscape of West Bengal, the Matua community holds significant political influence. With a population of around 30 lakh, they represent the second largest scheduled caste population in the state and are capable of impacting at least 5 Lok Sabha seats. While for those who've long struggled without a country to call their own, the CAA represents a beacon of hope. It will lead to political wrangling within the state of West Bengal ahead of the Lok Sabha election.
Today, after many years, for some maybe 50 years, for some maybe 75 years, they have received what they had been asking for all these years. That is a document which classifies them as an Indian national, as a citizen of India. With camera person Tapas Berry, this is Suryagni Roy for India Today, Thakurnagar, North Chobis Pargana.
Let's turn from there to our next big story, where a day after the Supreme Court Bar Association President Adish Agarwal wrote to President Draupadi Murmu seeking a presidential reference on the electoral bonds verdict, the Executive Committee of the Bar Association has gone ahead and disassociated itself from the letter and its president. The Bar Association, in fact, has condemned the contents of Agarwal's letter, calling it an attempt to overreach and undermine the authority of the Supreme Court. The panel made it abundantly clear that the members of the committee have neither authorized their chief to write any such letter nor subscribe to the views expressed therein. Remember, on Tuesday, the SCBA president had sought a presidential reference on the apex court judgment on the electoral bonds case, claiming the court had created a constitutional stalemate. Joining me now as to what really this all means for the Supreme Court Bar Association is Vikas Singh. He's the former president of the Supreme Court Bar Association, himself an eminent senior lawyer. Mr. Vikas Singh, what do you think should be done in a case like this? If the SCBA president is writing on a letterhead of the SCBA and asking for a presidential reference in a case as sensitive as that of electoral bonds and seeking a review of it, do you believe he's doing it in his personal capacity, or is he doing it under pressure from someone, or simply to seek publicity?
So, Rajdeep, firstly, to put the facts correctly, it was not on the letter pad of the SCBA, but yeah, at the end of the letter, he writes Adish Agarwal, President of Supreme Court Bar Association. So,
yes, I stand
maybe
corrected.
not on the letter pad, but definitely he is projecting as the President of the Bar writing that letter. So, that is one. As far as the conduct of Adish Agarwal is concerned, Rajiv, you have to understand, he is one lawyer who has no stakes in the Supreme Court. He is not a Supreme Court practitioner. You never see him practice in Supreme Court. He has got into the election because of, division of votes. And there are some votes which are not really of practitioners of Supreme Court. And that's how he's gotten. And that's why the Supreme Court is actually examining to prune the voters list and to ensure that only the actual voters practicing in Supreme Court, vote for an election. And also, so Supreme Court is examining whether person who has no say in the affairs of the Supreme Court, can he be allowed to contest as president? So all that will go before the general body. If the general body is not able to take a call, decide to call, the Supreme Court itself will take that call.
But the suspicion is that the SCBA president is taking a politically partisan stand. He should be standing up for the bar, for the lawyers. Instead, by doing what he did, he was seen to be taking sides in what is a very politically contentious issue.
So I think it was highly inappropriate for him to do something like that. And when I say that he can, it's not only that he has to intervene in affairs of the bar, but he also has to intervene in affairs of the institution, like we did when in my first tenure as president, when the judges went on this, you remember that press conference?
Yes.
We held a meeting and I didn't decide anything on my own. I called the executive committee meeting. We discussed everything at the threadbare and we decided that we must pass a resolution. We did pass a resolution and we said that there should be a system of roster. And Rajdeep, if you'll remember, the roster came only on the basis of our recommendation as Supreme Court Bar Association. So this kind of an action can be taken in larger public interest, or if to save the institution, or if there are something to do with the rule of law. But you can't, in your individual capacity, start writing letters using the stamp of the Supreme Court Bar Association, even though it may not be on the letter pad. But at least at the end of the letter, when your name is being mentioned, you say President of Supreme Court. So obviously you are wanting to use the position of the President of the Supreme Court Bar.
In conclusion, what happens next? In conclusion, what happens next? Because the worry is that all of this sullies the reputation, credibility of the Supreme Court and indeed the judicial system.
So Rajdeep, there is a very strong move to remove him as president by calling a general body, although I am personally against it because I feel that, it's a 1-year tenure and he should be allowed to continue his tenure. But he has already been, ridiculed and insulted enough by his executive committee, and any self-respecting president would have resigned. Because this is not the first time that the executive committee has, rebuked him. This is, I think, third or fourth time that he has been done, that the executive committee has done that. So it's a very, very sad state of affairs. The way he has conducted himself really establishes that the association now should be very particular or careful in electing people to the post of the president of the bar, because the president of the bar enjoys a very special position. The entire country, all the bar associations look up to the Supreme Court Bar Association. We actually have worked as a model bar. And Rajdeep, I don't know whether you're aware, the Supreme Court Bar has never gone on strike since independence. So we are one bar association where we feel that, and to that extent,
so I hope, therefore, that you all will continue to maintain those high standards, and I hope that Mr. Agarwala will have an adequate explanation. Otherwise, as you are saying, there is a strong move even to remove him from his post. But let's leave it there. Vikas Singh, for giving us a sense of how the other lawyers feel about this. Thank you very much for joining me here on the News Today.